Hello and welcome, Exiles, to my Bladestorm Berserker I've been making in SSF. Now, I have a regular shaper booted up here. I'm going to run through as I talk about the character and give you the lowdown of the idea. Originally, I was getting a bit burnt out on PoE with the current state of, just everything kind of felt like it led to a Dorn. It was feeling a bit, what's the word? Samey all the time. I was trying to plan a build in Trade League, and it just kind of like too much resources. It felt like if I was doing anything but Adorn, I was doing it wrong, and I wanted some variety in my life, wanted to have some change, and so I decided I was going to send a Berserker. And the Berserker I tried to send was a Earth Shatter of Prominence character. Originally, the plan was to have the character slam the ground and then have those spikes get blown up by General's Cry. Now, while doing this, I was just going to use General's Cry for utility, but I actually found out General's Cry by itself, with two different 6-links, a 6-link with General's Cry and a 6-link with our main hand, actually works pretty well. This is one of those things where I would never have tried this normally in a regular league. Most likely I wouldn't have, but going into SSF and just, sending it and just seeing where it went, I'm actually coming away with the conclusion that General's Cry is a lot better than I really ever gave it credit for, and I actually really enjoy it. And on top of that, I think I've come to the conclusion that Bladestorm is actually a very strong General's Cry skill. Now, before I go into the shaper, I'm going to kind of explain why I believe Bladestorm is actually a hidden gem for General's Cry and talk about it a bit. I'm using Bladestorm as both my main skill and my skill I have linked to General's Cry. Now, why do I think this is good in terms of General's Cry? Now, General's Cry does a few things that are very interesting with Bladestorm. Number one is each of those separate Mirage dudes that get summoned, they all have a separate Bladestorm limit. So you'll see when I attack an enemy, you'll see all the Bladestorms coming from this enemy. There's a ton of them. So the thing is, Bladestorm, normally, the skill has a limit of these maximum storms, but General's Cry, separate Mirages, separate Bladestorm limits, it gets around that limitation. So number one is you can scale into something like Duration. Normally Bladestorm Duration wouldn't do anything, but with this setup, the way I'm building this character with these General's Cry, since they have no limit on these storms, having increased duration just makes that storm stick around longer and deal more damage, which is kind of cool. It opens up a scaling vector that you wouldn't normally have on Bladestorm, because normally you'd attack fast enough, you'd always have maximum storms, and skill effect duration wouldn't do you any good. Number two, the other interesting thing is, it makes it so attack speed scaling actually benefits your General's Cry dudes, because normally General's Cry is, they summon the dudes attack once, and they're gone. But I believe with Bladestorm, the skill that lasts a duration, the hit rate those Bladestorms have is based on your attack speed. I could be wrong about this, but I think this is how it works. I could be wrong, but I believe that's how it works, is that I'm summoning these guys, and the Bladestorm, say it lasts 4 seconds or 5 seconds or whatever it is, during that duration, my attack speed will affect how often those Bladestorms hit. Now, the interesting thing about this is it opens up two extra scaling vectors to General's Cry that you normally can't access: attack speed and skill effect duration. Normally, Bladestorm is, or sorry, not Bladestorm. General's Cry is it hits once with whatever skill you have. You want whatever skill deals the most damage in the base effectiveness of the skill. Like, for example, Blade Flurry is a very good skill because it channels all the way to maximum and releases all the stages, and it's actually quite a bit of hits you get there. Bladestorm, on the other hand, might start off kind of lackluster, it might be okay, but when you can do things like attach duration to it, and that's just a more multiplier almost to the skill because it sticks around and hits the enemies, and starts scaling attack speed, it gets a little bit interesting because those are both very powerful things to give you another way to push your damage up. The more things you can multiply onto a skill's DPS, the more you can balloon it into higher and higher numbers. Now, my character, full disclosure, this is SSF gear. My best gear pieces is probably my axe, which is I think it's like 900 PDPS axe. It's pretty good. For Graveyard, it's a bit lackluster. I really need a perfect Fizz axe if I'm talking about Graveyard. I've missed a few axes, so it hasn't gone super ideally. And then I have pretty good ring and pretty good helmet. Outside that, I'm gonna hover over the other gear pieces. My other gear pieces are kind of lackluster, especially looking at my amulet in particular. I'm overcapped by over 80 lightning res, or 80 cold res. So this amulet's giving me 60 life and 27 dex. And technically an extra 50% chill reduction. Well, okay, I have the Divine Vessel. I just haven't gone around to do the reduced chill effect, but eventually I'm going to do that. And point is, some of my gear is good, some of my gear is bad. It's in between, but this is an SSF character. Don't have Awakened Gems yet. Still working to farm those things. So the point is, anyways, I digress. I actually find this quite interesting of the fact Bladestorm opens up these extra scaling vectors, and I like the idea of having a main hand skill as well as the as well as the General's Cry skill in 2 6 links. I'm not using totems, I'm not using a lot of the traditional melee stuff, but I'm getting to have a bit of fun in terms of, I'm just gonna lure this ball over here so it's on the way. I guess this isn't Uber Shaper, so it doesn't really matter where I put it, the balls are gonna disappear after this phase. But anyways, it allows me to have a character that's kind of like a main hand melee character where I'm going around and I'm swiping through things, but I also get the benefit of, oh, that was close. Oh, stop standing in that. I also get the benefit of having this extra automated DPS, which feels pretty good to play. So I'm gonna say, from my experience, I think this is a pretty powerful combination on way to have a pretty feels good melee character of getting to enjoy both some level of automated damage from the General's Cry, which are summoned from corpses, as well as the fact that I am a main hand and I can still attack with my normal base Bladestorm effect, and it works completely fine, and I enjoy that quite a bit. Now, you'll see every time I get to an enemy or a boss, if you're wondering why do you have Desecrate, General's Cry summons your Mirage corpses or Mirage Warriors based on corpses. You don't need to keep redoing the Desecrate. It doesn't consume the corpse. You'll see they'll keep summoning from the same set of corpses there in front of us. And the way it works is you essentially need 15 power to get all 6 Mirages to summon with one General's Cry. In other words, if you're next to a boss, you will always be max summoning these as long as you just put down like one corpse next to where you are. So for right now, I'm manually casting the Desecrate next to a boss. If I get better gear, there's ways to do some level of automation. I could do a focus trigger on my helmet. I could do something like a Corpse Walker where I'm walking around. Maybe I could do a cast on crit. If I made this character into a crit based character, I could have cast on crit on my leap slam. And then every time I leap slam into a pack, I'd trigger Desecrate or leap slam onto the boss, I'd trigger Desecrate, and then they'd be summoning. You don't really need that much automation because you only really need the Desecrate or the corpses to be summoned once. And once they're there, they'll stay there unless something else consumes them, like if the boss has a corpse consumption ability, or say I can't go and grab oh, what's it called that consumes corpses? There's a Delirium Jewel that if you grab gives you 10% I want to say it's 10% recover on consuming a corpse and it does it like once per second or something like that. It's something along those lines. I could be misremembering this, but point is, as long as I'm not consuming the corpses and the boss isn't consuming the corpses, you really only need to put down the Desecrate once. And then as you map, you'll kill monsters, they'll be dead because their corpses on the ground, and you'll summon more General's Cry. I don't really worry about summoning corpses while mapping, so it kind of has a neat little combination, I think at least, or at least it feels pretty decent to me. This also gives you the ability to say you could maybe consider the Bladestorm ability more of your single target ability, and then maybe you could do for your main hand skill, which you're running around killing monsters with, you could maybe do a better clear skill. Say, for example, I really like Sunder. I could map around with Sunder and I'd still have a large bulk of my damage because Bladestorm is giving me, the General's Cry Bladestorm is actually quite a bit of my single target currently. And the other one thing I would say is the scaling vector of skill vectoration is pretty nice, but I will put that with a caveat of if you have a boss that moves a lot and your Bladestorm, say, let me just hover over it real quick to see what it's going for. It lasts 5 seconds. If you get 1 second of damage and the boss moves, obviously, with the boss that moves a lot, it's a bit less advantageous, but most bosses stay relatively stationary and you'll still get the benefit of the damage. Also, one thing I really wanted for this character that will help my DPS and my scaling out a ton with this character is actually Warcry CDR tattoos. I have not successfully found any of those, but that's a big scaling vector for my character that I just haven't gotten yet. The one thing that I've noticed with General's Cry is it's pretty cool because it's like automated auto-targeting damage, and they look pretty cool. But there's a lot of nice things in terms of things you could do to invest into it or scale it. Getting Warcry CDR, getting skill vectoration, getting attack speed, all these things will work decently for making these guys do some extra damage, which feels pretty cool, I think. All in all, I've played this character a little bit over 40 hours. I don't know exactly how much AFK time I've had. Let's see if I can tank this. Yeah, we can take the slam, okay. But we have successfully done SSF all the way through Uber Elder, Maven. We've gotten our Void Stones. And just last night on stream, we did our first T17, which was we did a Sanctuary map. So we have in our stash here, we have ourselves a Devouring Fragment. So I've been on this SSF run for a bit now. I'm not the best player. I'm not the worst player. I'm doing okay, I think. And I'm going to keep grinding it out to see where we can get with this character. Having a lot of fun with it. And I'll probably update the progress. All in all, my takeaways from this experience was, number one is, I really do actually enjoy SSF a decent amount as the league dies down, trade dies down. This is a fun little experience to push myself and try new things. And number two is, I'm really glad I did, because I actually have a lot of new appreciation for both General's Cry as an ability that's pretty cool. Summoning these Mirage dudes, having them go out and attack things. And not only that, but I think there's actually potential for this to be a really good league starter. And it's going to be on the list of things I'm looking forward to trying out and maybe perfecting, and might be a build I league start coming next league. So anyways, this is my Bladestorm Berserker I've been working on in SSF. I'll POB down for those curious to look at the setup I've gone for. And I'll probably do another update when I have progressed the character a bit better, gotten some better gear, and upgraded a bit more. My goal is to do all 7 Ubers in SSF. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, as always, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. And yeah, take care and peace out. Have a good one, Exiles.